Hello and welcome back to The Point of It All with Jamie and Trevor. Of course, I am Jamie and he is
Trevor,
Trevor. How's it going, man?
not too bad. How are you today?
Good. So E3 is in full swing and all these new games and consoles and titles are rolling out. But we're going to touch a little bit real quick on the market of retro gaming. I mean, out of nowhere, it just seems to have exploded recently with announcements from Hyperkin and a couple other vendors as well. What do you think is spurring on this revolution in retro gaming, or has it always been and we just haven't heard about it?
Well, you figure a couple years back, NES or Nintendo came out with a Nintendo Classic system, which sold pretty well. If you remember, for a while, you couldn't even get one.
Right.
You had the Super Nintendo version come out. That did pretty good. People jumped all over it. Then, now you've got a Sega Genesis Mini coming out. Konami's bringing out a Turbo Graphics Mini.
Turbo Graphics, wow.
You've got a couple people bringing out some stuff here that is generating a good bit of excitement. I don't know how well the Turbo Graphics one will do, but it's just something I never personally had or knew much about. But
would you say that was a mainstream console back in the day? I don't think it was. I mean,
it competed with the Nintendo at the time, which nothing really could have ever beat the Nintendo, the original.
Right. Well, except the Sega Genesis,
the
Master System.
True.
I think it goes back a little bit further than that. Think about it this way: when I had my PSP and when I had my my Nintendo DS, right? I always tried to hack it to play the older games on it. It's like I've got all these brand new cartridges and discs from my PSP, but I always wanted to go back to the Genesis days and the Super Nintendo days. And, part of it was nostalgia, but some of the games were just really good. I mean, they were just really, really, and they held up well today. I mean, so that probably has a lot to do with it as well. Just good games,
I mean, there's something refreshing about, like I said before, you just turn something on, you just play it.
Right.
You have to set it up. You don't have to go into menus and change darkness or graphic settings, or just something refreshing about, like if you don't play Mike Tyson's Punch-Out, you just turn on, you play. There's just something refreshing about that,
Right.
You don't have all kinds of wacky settings and downloads and patches, and so I think there's something to that too.
The market is definitely there because you have manufacturers like GPD and a couple others, Chinese vendors mostly, that are putting out devices primarily geared towards retro gaming. I've had two of the GPDXs. I have the original, and I had the Plus a year ago, and they're made for emulation from the ground up. They're Android devices, but they are geared towards the hardcore emulator. Here's a beast that I've had for a couple years now. This is the Singularity, the JXD Singularity 192, and it's also an emulator beast. It's an Android tablet with a 7-inch screen with controllers on the left and right side, and there's not too many things that it can't run. It's not going to run Wii games or GameCube games, but everything else it just dominates. I mean, MAME, SNES, Game Boy. So I've always had a thirst for retro gaming, and I tend to buy devices that are geared towards that. The Game Boy Zero, like another example. It doesn't just play Game Boy games; it plays pretty much any other emulator in the same 10 years from that point as well. So I'm all in, definitely. What about you, man? I know you're really into retro gaming as well.
I love retro games. I mean, I have a Nintendo an analog ST Mini, the Genesis version of the analog system. I've got the Nintendo Classic. I also just bought a retro USB AVS, which is a Nintendo clone console that runs an FPGA chip.
Right.
I've got a couple different things like that. I've also got the PS1 Classic. So I've got a couple different ones that I really, really like and enjoy. And, I really like them. I like going back and playing those games. There's something fun in going back about playing some of those games. And like I said before, I just didn't have time to play all of them at the time. So now I can think of certain ones I want to play.
Right.
What I'm dying to play is when you need a Nintendo 64 for Super Mario 64. That's a game I just never played. I had the game and just really never played too much of it.
Right. It's bad. It's bad when you have an Xbox One X or an Xbox One S or a PS4 with like 5 or 10 games on your shelf or downloaded that you haven't even touched yet, and you're on your couch beside those consoles playing, an NES game on your handheld. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah. Well, I think that's how you're seeing some of those things also too. with Arcade One Up or At Games is now making a arcade type system.
Right.
And some of those things surge in popularity because people like going back and playing
Yeah.
Galaga. And, there's been announcements this week for, a Pac-Man cocktail unit, a Street Fighter cocktail unit by Arcade One Up. So you're seeing those old style retro games generate a good bit of buzz. And I would even go as far as to say, people talk about who's won E3. I would even go as far as say Arcade One Up, I believe, has,
Really? A retro gaming company won E3?
The buzz that I hear and see on Twitter, it's just different news outlets coming out. Like today when they announced their authentic Star Wars unit, Arcade One Up, with the authentic yoke control, that generated more buzz than anything I think I heard all week at E3. So
what's that going to cost, do you think?
Well, they've said it's going to be under $500, which means it'll be $499. But it's kind of neat though. That was something I remember playing when I was little at arcades.
Right.
That was what do you call it? Vector based.
Yeah.
On there, and it's just
it's like Tempest, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I think I'm really excited for that. At Games has come with some. I know some of the stuff At Games has made before has been utter trash, but this one so far looks like it might be a little different.
Right. When I was a kid, a little quick story. When I was a kid going to the arcade, I never could grasp the concept of Tempest. Mm-hmm. I could never understand what I was supposed to be doing, Yeah,
and
I haven't played it since then,
I've got an Arcade One Up. It's the Atari 12-in-1 that I modified to put a different spinner on there.
Right. Is Tempest on there?
Tempest to play with Tempest, and it's got Major Havoc and the trackball. And
I have to come by and check out Tempest just to see if I can figure out what I'm doing.
Cool. I mean, especially with the modified spinner on that Arcade One Up. So I'd even go as far as to say I wouldn't be surprised if you see Arcade One Up get into a mini type pinball thing too, because you're seeing buzz build on virtual pinball machines. And there was a company years back called Zizzle that made smaller scale pinball that you're seeing pop up on eBay and sell for $1,000-$1,500. So because they're so rare, people have a thirst for some of this older vintage type stuff.
Right. I'd be curious to know the sales figures on these cabinets. You know what I mean? I wonder just how much or how much is caught on, or what the penetration rate is for these devices. Yeah. Is it still just a niche market, or has it gone mainstream truly?
It really seems, if you pay attention to the announcements this week, you had a 4-player Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles cabinet come out. Coming out in November. The Star Wars one's going to come out in November. You've got the Marvel Capcom one that's also got X-Men Children of the Atom and the Punisher on it coming out in November. Those all generated as much buzz as I heard about that Avengers game. I mean, coming out from Square Enix. So, there's definitely interest in those, and people posting videos, on YouTube similar to it, talking about somewhat like we are. Those seem to be, popping up all over the place. So, it definitely seems to be some excitement for some of these retro style systems.
Let me ask you this. Let's wrap it up with this. If you could only have one retro device and one game that you could play, what would it be? Like, what's your go-to?
For me, it'd probably always be Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. Yeah, that would always be, because I've never beaten it. I can get up to Soda Popinski and I get beat. I can never get past him. I can never beat the game. I even did codes to get to Tyson. He knocks me down for that first minute 30 relentlessly. That's the game I would always go back and play.
My go-to game would probably be, this is going to be maybe an obscure title for some of you guys, but Neo Turf Masters for the Neo Geo. I cannot get enough of that game. I mean, I'm just addicted to it, and I would play that. I'd probably play it around the clock if I could.
Yeah.
Wrote just a quick meter-based golf game, mediocre graphics for today's standards at least, but just fun, just crazy fun. So I'm a golf guy.
Don't forget also, we didn't say it. We did a video earlier in the week, the announcement from Hyperkin on their N64 clone. Now, I have not seen anything get announced at E3.
Cannot wait for that.
Like we heard about what's coming out on it, but details of pricing, but I haven't heard anything this week.
Yeah, you mentioned that you saw on Etsy or some other boutique website that you saw a modded N64 for $800 with HDMI. Mm-hmm. I'm hoping that the Hyperkin version is not going to be anywhere near that. I'm hoping
I would be real.
I'd probably pay $300 max. That's it. I wouldn't pay more than $300.
Real surprised if Hyperkin system is more than 200. Once you start getting into that, it's going to be a tougher sell to ever become mainstream.
Right, exactly. So what's your limit on the Hyperkin 64?
I'd probably say 200 plus. Once you start getting
200.
closer to 3, then I'd probably start to go.
You know, I would only spend 3 because I have the EverDrive, and I think it'll work with that hopefully. But other than that, if I didn't have the EverDrive, I'd say 150, $200 bucks.
If you have the EverDrive in there and it works with most of the games.
Oh man,
90% of the games.
Oh man, it's worth $300 to me in that case. You know,
you have the whole library at your fingertips.
Exactly, exactly. You got anything else, man?
Nope, nothing else I got there other than say, you know, if you like the video, hit thumbs up. Dislike it, hit thumbs down. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the notification button as well, so you can see when our videos go up.
Nice, nice, nice. All right, man. It's been a pretty big E3. We're gonna have a big wrap-up show this weekend, so look for that to go up. What do you think? Saturday night?
I say Saturday night.
Yes, 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 yes. All right. Well, that's it for the night, guys. Enjoy the rest of E3, and we'll see you soon.